Morning I wake up to a new headline lying about me. I have comedians dressing up in whiteface. I have people saying I'm not fit to be CEO, and I have Candace Owens claiming I murdered my husband. And the list goes on and on and on.
What are you going to ask her? At the bottom here, you can see I said, I'm asking everything. First question, why did you murder your husband? Cry emoji. And I have made a lot of claims about you lying, and I stand by the claims that I have made on this show.
Every single morning, Erika wakes up to another headline tearing her apart. Another accusation. Another viral clip. Another public attack spreading across the internet like wildfire before she can even respond. One day it is comedians mocking her on stage. The next day it is political commentators questioning whether she should even be running a company at all. And then came the accusation that changed everything. The moment Candace Owens publicly implied that Erika may have known far more about her husband's death than she ever admitted. That one statement detonated online. Suddenly, every interview, every emotional appearance, every carefully worded statement Erika had made was being replayed in slow motion by millions of people searching for cracks in the story. And Candace did not hold back. During one explosive discussion, she openly mocked the situation, saying the first thing she would ask Erika face to face was why her husband ended up dead in the first place. She laughed. The internet froze. Then chaos erupted. But here is where the story takes an even darker turn. Because every attempt Erika has made to calm the fire surrounding her name has somehow made the backlash even worse. Instead of silencing critics, she has fueled them. Instead of repairing her image, she has pulled even more attention onto herself. And now insiders are surfacing with claims so specific, so uncomfortable, that people are beginning to question whether the story is far bigger than anyone originally imagined. New whispers are spreading, tying Erika to circles connected to Jeffrey Epstein's network, while others are revisiting unanswered questions surrounding her husband Charlie's death. And once those two conversations collided online, the situation spiraled completely out of control. Then came the White House Correspondents' Dinner, the night that changed the temperature of this entire scandal. On April 29th, Erika arrived at the event surrounded by cameras flashing from every direction. Politicians, journalists, celebrities, federal officials, everyone important in one room. But what people cannot stop talking about is who she appeared unusually comfortable around that night. FBI Director Kash Patel. Witnesses inside the venue claim Erika looked relaxed around him all evening, smiling, laughing, leaning in close during conversations, moving like someone with absolutely no tension between them whatsoever. And then suddenly panic exploded inside the building. Reports say loud shots rang out, causing confusion across the venue. People ducked. Security rushed in. Chaos erupted almost instantly. And according to multiple sources, Kash Patel personally stepped in and escorted Erika out himself. Now pause for a second and think about why that detail matters so much. Because this is the same FBI director overseeing the investigation connected to Charlie Kirk's death. The same investigation millions of Americans believe has moved painfully slow with almost no meaningful public answers. When a high-profile political figure is murdered on a college campus, people expect immediate action. Aggressive investigations, press conferences, arrests, updates, movement, but instead silence. And now reports are emerging claiming the FBI's elite reconstruction unit was delayed from arriving at the scene because of internal transportation issues connected directly to Patel's use of Bureau aircraft. That revelation hit like a bomb online. People were already frustrated by how little progress had been made. But now critics are asking something even more uncomfortable. Why does Erika appear so calm around the man being blamed for those delays? Sources say despite weeks of negative headlines surrounding Patel's alleged drinking issues and unexplained disappearances from responsibility, Erika has shown zero visible anger toward him. No frustration. No public pressure. No emotional demand for answers about her husband's case. Instead, witnesses described their interaction at the dinner as warm, friendly, almost unsettlingly relaxed considering the circumstances surrounding them both. Journalists who attended the event admitted afterward that they could not stop talking about the energy between them, because from the outside, it did not look like a grieving widow demanding justice. It looked like two people completely comfortable in each other's presence, while the rest of the country kept asking why the case feels frozen in time. And then people noticed another contradiction that made the backlash even uglier. Erika publicly claims she has forgiven the man responsible for Charlie's death. Forgiven him, released the anger, moved toward faith. Yet somehow she appears far more emotionally shaken by a comedian parodying her online than by the failures surrounding the federal investigation into her husband's murder. That contrast lit social media on fire. One side involves a dead husband and unanswered questions. The other involves a comedy sketch. And critics immediately began asking why the second situation seemed to provoke more visible emotion from her than the first. Then Erika attempted to center herself publicly through faith-based interviews speaking about prayer and forgiveness and leaning heavily into religion as criticism intensified around her. But before that conversation could settle, Candace Owens detonated another grenade into the story. This time, she claimed the terrifying moment at the White House dinner may not have been real at all. Candace suggested the entire incident looked staged, calculated, orchestrated for cameras. She pointed out how photographers somehow appeared perfectly positioned to capture Erika crying while being escorted out of the venue. And within hours, millions of people were replaying the footage frame by frame searching for proof. That accusation poured gasoline onto an already uncontrollable fire. Suddenly, the internet split into war zones. Some people defended Erika, saying she was being psychologically destroyed in public. Others became convinced they were watching one giant performance carefully managed behind the scenes. And just when people thought the situation could not get messier, another alleged response surfaced online targeting Candace directly, with edited magazine imagery mocking her credibility and questioning her influence altogether. No official source has verified where it came from, but by then it honestly did not matter anymore. The damage was already done. Now the entire internet is locked in a vicious cycle of theories, accusations, leaked claims, and emotional reactions, with Erika standing directly at the center of it all. And through all the chaos, one statement continues haunting this entire story more than any other. The young man who did this, I forgive him. At this point, the internet is no longer simply reacting to the story. People are dissecting it like a criminal case unfolding in real time. Every clip from that White House dinner is now circulating nonstop across social media, with viewers slowing footage down frame by frame, searching for something everyone feels, but nobody can fully prove yet. People are analyzing the exact second Erika stood up, the expression on her face, who touched her shoulder, who she looked at before leaving, why cameras somehow seemed ready before the panic even settled. Nothing is being ignored anymore. Online commentators are now split into two completely different camps. One side believes this entire situation has spiraled into reckless conspiracy territory, where assumptions are being treated as facts before any official evidence exists. But the other side believes something far more disturbing is happening behind the scenes, and they are convinced the public still has not seen the full picture. And while the internet tears itself apart debating theories, pressure is quietly building on federal investigators behind closed doors. Because people have waited months for clarity surrounding Charlie's case. And whatever patience the public once had is disappearing fast. Every day without answers creates another wave of suspicion. Another wave of speculation. Another headline questioning whether critical details are being hidden intentionally. And instead of calming down, the rhetoric online has become harsher and more personal than ever before. Some critics have gone so far that even neutral observers are starting to pull back uncomfortably. Attacks on Erika's intelligence, her personality, her motives, even her grief itself is now being questioned publicly. At the same time, others are warning that this obsession is becoming dangerous, arguing that personal hatred is beginning to overshadow legitimate questions that deserve real investigation. But just when the drama seemed impossible to escalate further, another explosive layer entered the story. Laura Loomer. Reports began spreading that Laura may have played some role in amplifying anti-Candace narratives that suddenly flooded social media. And once those rumors surfaced, the entire conflict exploded into open warfare between political influencers. Sources claimed Laura launched deeply personal attacks against Candace behind the scenes, while allies on both sides started leaking information against each other publicly. Now, the scandal was no longer just about Erika. It had become a battlefield involving multiple high-profile personalities all dragging each other into the spotlight at the exact same time. And the ugliest part? Nobody seemed interested in backing down. The back and forth turned vicious fast. Accusations, insults, character assassinations. Every side accusing the other of manipulation, deception, and hidden agendas. Then new voices entered the conversation, including commentators like Annika Spar and Baron Coleman, who shifted attention towards something even more uncomfortable. The possibility that Erika's entire public image was being managed through an aggressive, coordinated PR strategy. That accusation landed differently because it did not come from obvious political enemies. It came from observers questioning whether the emotional narrative surrounding Erika felt too polished, too controlled, too perfectly timed. Critics began asking whether people were witnessing genuine grief, or carefully curated optics designed to protect power, influence, and public sympathy. And once that idea entered the conversation, people started revisiting everything. Every interview, every emotional pause, every carefully worded statement. Then another allegation surfaced that pushed the controversy into dangerous territory. According to reports, Erika allegedly told major TISA donors during a private meeting that Charlie personally wanted her to take control of the organization if anything ever happened to him. Now, on paper that sounds simple, but online it detonated instantly. Because Charlie Kirk was known for being extremely calculated and organized about every detail connected to his movement, his branding, and his future plans. People close to the organization describe him as someone who documented everything. Structured everything, prepared for everything. So critics immediately began asking one brutal question. If Charlie truly made such an important decision, where is the proof? Where are the documents? The recordings? The emails? The written directives? Because according to growing numbers of critics, verbal claims are no longer enough. And that absence of hard evidence is becoming more suspicious to people the longer this story continues. Now supporters insist Erika should not have to publicly defend every private conversation she ever had with her husband. They argue the internet is demanding impossible levels of proof from a grieving widow already under enormous pressure. But critics are refusing to let the issue go. They say grief cannot become a shield against accountability. And they believe sympathy should not exempt public figures from scrutiny when power, money, and influence are involved. That debate has become one of the most toxic parts of this entire scandal. Because underneath all the conspiracy theories, political drama, and emotional interviews sits one central question nobody can agree on anymore. Is Erika the victim of an unbelievably cruel public takedown? Or is the public slowly uncovering contradictions that were never supposed to be examined this closely? And the deeper people dig, the more chaotic the story becomes. Every old interview is now being replayed under a microscope. Past clips are resurfacing daily. Connections once ignored are suddenly being treated as major clues. And instead of resolving confusion, every new detail seems to create 5 new questions behind it. That pattern alone has become part of the controversy itself. Supporters still defend Erika fiercely, saying the attacks against her have crossed into obsession and coordinated harassment. But an increasingly large section of the audience is demanding something much more concrete than emotional speeches or public statements. They want receipts, documents, independent verification, something undeniable. Because trust in the official narrative is starting to fracture in real time. And what makes this entire situation even harder to control is how quickly the public conversation keeps changing direction. One moment people are talking about Charlie's legacy and preserving what he built. The next moment, the entire internet pivots toward questions about transparency, loyalty, hidden motives, and who may actually benefit from the chaos surrounding his death. Nobody can stabilize the narrative anymore because every new revelation resets the entire conversation again. And now the fallout is reportedly starting to hit the organization itself. Behind-the-scenes sources claim donor confidence inside Tfuza has become shaky, with some longtime financial backers quietly distancing themselves from the movement altogether. And if that trend continues, the consequences may extend far beyond internet drama. Because this story is no longer just destroying reputations. It is beginning to threaten power, money, influence, and the future of the organization Charlie spent years building from the ground up. Behind closed doors, the situation inside Tfuza is reportedly becoming far more unstable than most people realize publicly. Sources claim internal tensions are now reaching levels that longtime staff members have never seen before. Employees are allegedly stepping away from key positions. Veteran insiders who helped build the organization from the ground up are quietly disappearing from leadership circles. And perhaps most alarming of all, several university chapters are reportedly beginning to distance themselves from the national brand entirely. That detail sent shockwaves through political media because for years Tfuza's college network was viewed as one of its strongest weapons. Its identity. Its engine. So when campuses allegedly begin creating separation from the organization itself, people notice immediately. And according to multiple observers both inside and outside the movement, the growing controversy surrounding Erika is now sitting directly at the center of that unraveling. But the conversation has evolved far beyond whether people personally like or dislike Erika anymore. This has become something much larger. Questions about leadership. Questions about transparency. Questions about whether the people running powerful institutions are being fully honest with the audiences supporting them. Because trust takes years to build. But once doubt enters the room, collapse can happen frighteningly fast. Now critics are digging into past business relationships and old professional connections tied to people inside Erika's circle. They are demanding explanations about associations that were barely discussed publicly before this controversy exploded. To be clear, many of the more explosive accusations floating online remain completely unverified. But that has not stopped them from spreading at terrifying speed across social media platforms where speculation now travels faster than facts themselves. And that non-stop wave of rumors is creating pressure from every possible direction at once. At the heart of all of this is what many analysts are calling Erika's biggest problem right now. Not one scandal, not one allegation, not one viral moment, a pattern. A growing perception that too many details surrounding this story feel inconsistent, confusing, or incomplete. And that perception is starting to affect even some people who originally defended her aggressively. Because when supporters begin feeling uncertain, that is when organizations enter dangerous territory. People are no longer just asking isolated questions. They are beginning to connect multiple controversies together into one much larger narrative. And until clear, direct answers arrive, the pressure is only going to intensify, not slow down, not stabilize, intensify. The biggest question hanging over everything right now is whether Tfuza can actually recover from this level of sustained scrutiny before permanent damage sets in. Some analysts believe the organization is strong enough to survive the storm, that large political institutions always face periods of chaos and eventually stabilize once emotions cool down. But others believe something far more serious is happening. They think this may become the exact moment historians point back to years from now and say, that was the beginning of the collapse. The moment cracks hidden behind the scenes finally became impossible to hide publicly anymore. And no matter which side turns out to be right, one thing is undeniable. The pressure surrounding Erika is not fading. It is getting worse. Every interview, every appearance, every public statement, every organizational decision, everything is now being examined under a microscope by millions of people waiting for contradictions, inconsistencies, or hidden motives. Supporters continue begging for fairness, patience, and basic human decency. Critics are demanding something very different. Hard proof, specific accountability, verifiable facts instead of emotional narratives. And that clash between emotion and evidence is what keeps this entire fire burning hotter every single day. Because now when people discuss Erika, they're no longer focused on one isolated controversy anymore. They're talking about what critics describe as an interconnected web of relationships, business ties, political alliances, and unanswered questions stretching much wider than anyone expected at the beginning of this story. One detail that continues resurfacing involves Erika's previous connection to the Corcoran group. Online investigators keep revisiting reports tied to the company's past associations, asking questions about what role Erika may have played there and whether there are details the public still does not fully understand. Again, none of these discussions directly prove wrongdoing. That distinction matters. But the problem for Erika is that the questions are now coming from every direction at once. Rumors tied to old modeling circles and elite social networks have also started spreading heavily online, with people attempting to map out who Erika may have crossed paths with years before she entered the political spotlight. And this is where the internet becomes extremely dangerous. Because once speculation starts connecting names, timelines, and old photographs together, people begin building entire narratives from fragments that may or may not have any actual connection in reality. Some of the accusations now circulating online are incredibly serious. Claims involving powerful individuals. Claims involving hidden connections. Claims that remain completely unverified and heavily disputed. Yet despite the lack of confirmed evidence, millions of people are still consuming those theories daily, as if they are pieces of a giant puzzle waiting to be solved. And now the country feels split into two completely different realities. One side believes voices like Candace Owens are exposing uncomfortable truths powerful people desperately want buried. The other side believes this entire controversy has crossed into full-scale character assassination fueled by rumors, emotion, and algorithm-driven outrage. And neither side is backing down anymore. Supporters of Erika argue that massive amounts of information being shared online rely on hearsay, speculation, anonymous sourcing, and assumptions presented like established fact. Critics respond with one argument they repeat constantly. If so many independent people keep asking the same questions, maybe there is a reason. That is the deadlock trapping this entire story right now. And what makes everything even harder to contain is the speed. The speed is unbelievable. A new clip goes viral in minutes. A leaked post spreads globally before anyone verifies it. A rumor becomes a headline before facts can even catch up. At that point, correcting misinformation becomes almost impossible because emotionally charged narratives move far faster than careful investigations ever can. And that widening gap between confirmed reality and viral speculation is creating one of the most chaotic public controversies the internet has seen in years. Right now, this situation feels like it is approaching a breaking point. The kind of breaking point where one major revelation, one leaked document, one unexpected witness, or one official statement could completely change how this entire story is remembered forever. Meanwhile, online comment sections have turned absolutely vicious. Some users are making deeply personal attacks against Erika, pushing theories about secret backgrounds, hidden alliances, and family connections despite having no verified evidence supporting those claims whatsoever. Others are desperately trying to pull the conversation back toward facts, warning that people are beginning to confuse speculation with proof. But by now, emotions are so high that almost nobody is listening calmly anymore. Even lifestyle criticism has entered the war zone. People are questioning Erika's appearance, her travel, her public image, and the contrast between the lifestyle she projects online and the emotional hardship she claims to be living through privately. Supporters argue that criticism is unfair and superficial, saying appearances can never tell the full truth about someone's internal reality. Critics say the contradictions feel impossible to ignore. And now every comment section connected to this story feels less like a discussion and more like a battlefield where nobody even agrees on the same version of reality anymore. Which finally brings this entire story to one unavoidable question. What do you actually believe? Are these growing questions legitimate signs that something deeper deserves investigation? Or has the internet become so addicted to conspiracy, outrage, and viral chaos that speculation is now replacing evidence completely? Because whatever the truth is, this story is clearly nowhere near over. And the next major development could change everything overnight.